What's going on, everybody? So when I first got my car, it was February, but it was really warm February. But then it got cold towards the end of the month, and I figured out that my heat didn't work. So I had to go into the dealership because it was still under the warranty. So I took it to the BMW dealership, and they gave me a rental car, and that was an F30 328i. And I really wish I had been doing videos at the time, but I didn't even have a camera then, so I didn't make any video about a compare and contrast of the two. But now I can actually make a halfway decent comparison without actually having the car with me. But I've driven both cars. I had the F30 for about a week, and it was a really good car. And I'm just going to compare and contrast the two and tell you what I like about each one compared to the other one, and what I don't like about each one compared to the other one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into this.
So when comparing the two cars, obviously you're probably going to notice the exterior first. And there's some big differences, especially around the front end. The E90 is much more conservative in styling compared to the F30, where it's much more aggressive, modern, and angular, larger grills, more aggressive lines, and the such. But moving on towards the back, they pretty much look the same in the rear. The taillights are a bit elongated on the F30, but aside from that, I really feel they look about the same in the rear. Moving to the interior, though, there's huge differences there. This is the interior of the E90, and it's pretty conservative also, just like the exterior. Basic, has a pretty timeless look, but the F30 is completely different. However, BMW made use of a lot of cheap materials and hard plastics in the places that you wouldn't normally touch, which they did not do in the E90. The N52 engine in the E90 is a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine producing 231 horsepower and 200 foot-pound of torque. The F30 328i is powered by the N20 inline 4-cylinder that is boosted by a twin-scroll turbocharger. This raises power to 240 horsepower and 255 foot-pound of torque. And this is one of the most noticeable differences when you drive the car. That extra torque is really present at the low end and will really put you back in your seat, and is one of my favorite parts about this car.
As far as fuel economy goes, the two cars are very similar. The F30 is rated for much better fuel economy. I think it's 23 in the city and 35 on the highway. If that's wrong, I'll put some text down there. And the E90, I really don't even know what the fuel economy rating is. I know that I averaged 23, but I felt like I only averaged about 24 in the F30, and I drove them about the same. I mean, there was a rental car, so I was a little harder on it than I would normally be on my own car, just because I didn't have to worry about repairing anything. And then as far as driving dynamics go, and this is the one part where I wish I had an F30 to show you with, but and I really don't even know if I would be able to show you, but the steering is garbage. It's just like a sponge. I was able to drive through a parking lot like smacking the wheel left to right and still stayed in a straight line. In the E90, it's quite heavy and very direct and feedback. So in the F30, there's 4 modes. There's comfort mode, there's eco mode, there's sport and sport plus, and there's a little button next to the gear selector that lets you choose between them. And the steering is actually the heaviest, I feel, in comfort. When you go to sport, it kind of turns very loose and feathery, but the suspension stiffens up, and I wish there was a kind of midpoint between comfort and sport, like keep the heavier steering from comfort, but have the tightened suspension and increased throttle response and later gear changes that you get in sport. And then Sport Plus is just sport with no traction control on. All the stability and driver aids are gone, and it's pretty fun to not have that. I mean, you can do some burnouts, you know, break the back end loose pretty well. That extra torque really helps in breaking the back end out. As far as wheels go, both cars are fitted to similar setup. That's kind of what inspired me to get these wheels, because on the original wheels, the 205, 55, 16s, the chassis couldn't handle. When I had the F30, I was like, there is no way that this car is that much better in every way except for the steering as far as driving goes. And when I switched wheels, my car was right there with it, so I just had bad wheels on the car. And I think if you own this car, wheels is a must, unless you have some wider tread ones than I did. I mean, I had the base model, so I had the base wheels, the worst wheels you could possibly have. No, the seating position is a bit different. Like in my car, I kind of feel like I'm down with the car. In the F30, I just don't feel connected to the car. That's basically the problem with the F30. It's a really, really good car, very capable chassis, but you're just not connected. And for that reason, I'm really glad that I have an E90 as opposed to the F30. And almost every other way, I mean, the cheaped out on the interior a little bit. I mean, like I have hydraulic or gas struts, some kind of struts that prop my trunk up. The F30 doesn't have that. It just is on hinges basically. You can just tell that they cut some corners. The accountants must have got in there and said, look, y'all are spending too much money on a compact executive sedan, and you've just got to cut costs somewhere. So I guess that's what they did. I don't know if that's it or not, but it just makes sense. So yeah, all in all, guys, if you like this video, if you thought this comparison was helpful or just interesting, please like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.